The mirror that answers. Before we continue, please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you. The mirror had been leaning against the back wall of the yard sale, half buried among forgotten furniture and chipped porcelain figurines. The sun was low and weak, its reflection dim in the blackened silver frame. Lydia almost missed it. She'd stopped by the sale on a whim, lured by a hand-painted sign nailed to a fence post. Antiques and oddities. The sort of thing she couldn't resist. There was something about old objects, their history, their energy, the idea that they had seen more than any living person ever could. The mirror stood about 5 feet tall, its once bright silver now tarnished into veins of smoke and shadow. The glass itself looked fogged from within, as though it had swallowed years of candlelight and exhaled none of it. "How much for the mirror?" she asked the old man at the cash box. He barely glanced up. "You can take it for 20, but you might want to keep it covered." Lydia laughed. "Why's that?" "Bad luck." He looked at her, and for a moment his eyes seemed to glaze, focusing on something far away, or maybe on someone standing just behind her. "Something like that," he muttered. "Mirrors remember things." She thought he was just trying to add a story to the sale. It worked. That night, Lydia carried the mirror into her apartment, leaving faint streaks of dust across the hardwood floor. She propped it against her bedroom wall, across from her bed, where it caught the weak glow of her bedside lamp. It didn't match her decor, too dark, too old, but she liked the contrast. It made the room feel dramatic, alive with a sort of gothic elegance. For a while, she scrolled her phone, the mirror's shape hovering in her peripheral vision like a deep, quiet pond. When she finally turned off the lamp, she saw her reflection in the dim light from the street. It seemed to move slower than she did, as though the glass were syrup and time took longer to pass through it. She told herself she was imagining things. Around midnight, a sound woke her, a whisper of movement, soft enough to be almost a dream. Lydia sat up. Her reflection, half lit by the moon through the blinds, stared back. She felt foolishly self-conscious, sitting there in her tank top and messy hair, staring at herself in the middle of the night. To break the tension, she smirked and said, half under her breath, "What will I look like in 10 years?" The glass seemed to inhale. A mist bloomed across the surface, swirling like breath on cold glass. She frowned, leaning forward. Her own face rippled, distorted. Then, slowly, agonizingly, another version of herself began to form. It was still Lydia, but not. Her face was thinner, her skin sallow, her hair dull and uneven, clinging in greasy ropes to her temples. Her eyes were huge, sunken into purple hollows. The mouth, the mouth, hung slack, lips split, revealing broken teeth like tiny gravestones. The future Lydia raised a trembling hand. The motion was unnatural, jerky, as if it took effort just to move. Lydia laughed, breathless, her chest tightening with something she refused to name. "Oh my God, creepy much." She stepped back. The reflection didn't. It only stared, then tilted its head, mirroring nothing. Lydia's throat went dry. She took another step back. The reflection's lips moved, but no sound came out. Then the mist cleared. The glass was blank again, showing only her own pale, frightened face. She turned on every light in the room, dragging a blanket over the mirror. It had to be some trick of the light, or maybe the old glass refracting shadows. That was all. She'd had a drink earlier, 2 glasses of wine, maybe 3. Her mind had filled in the rest. By morning, she almost believed it. For the next few days, she tried not to think about it. She even started telling the story at work, laughing it off with her coworkers as her haunted mirror moment. But the laughter never sat right. Each night, she'd catch herself glancing toward the covered mirror, half expecting to see the fabric stirring. Sometimes she'd wake up and swear she heard a faint tapping, like fingernails brushing against glass. On the 4th night, she dreamed she was standing before the mirror again. This time there was no mist, just darkness behind the glass, stretching forever. Her reflection stepped forward until its palms pressed against the inside of the mirror. Lydia tried to move, but her limbs felt heavy. She wanted to run, to scream, but the reflection leaned closer until its forehead rested against the glass. She could hear it breathing, long, ragged, and hungry. Then it smiled. She woke to a sharp crack. Her bedroom was cold, the kind of cold that eats through blankets. The mirror's covering had fallen halfway off. A jagged line ran down the center of the glass like a lightning bolt frozen in place. Her heart pounded. She grabbed the blanket and yanked it back over the mirror, pressing it tight, as if that could hold something inside. All night, she heard faint creaks and sighs from the corner of the room, like the frame settling or the sound of someone shifting their weight on old floorboards. The next morning, she decided to get rid of it. She hauled the mirror into the hallway, intending to drag it down to the curb. But as soon as sunlight hit the glass through the torn blanket, she froze. The crack was gone. The mirror was perfect again, and in that polished darkness, her reflection smiled first. Lydia stumbled back, tripping over the rug. The reflection didn't mimic her panic. It only stood there, grinning faintly, a slow, widening grin that split too far, too wrong. Her voice broke. "Stop it." The reflection tilted its head, just like before, then pressed its hand against the glass. The surface rippled. Not like water, not like smoke, but like skin. When she turned to run, her eyes caught one last image. Her reflection pressing its palm harder, the glass bulging outward around it, the faint sound of cracking like bone under pressure. She slammed her bedroom door and didn't come out until morning. The mirror was gone. Only a faint rectangle of dust marked where it had leaned. Lydia's front door was wide open, though the locks were still in place. That night, she slept with the lights on. She told herself she'd imagined it all. Maybe she'd taken it to the curb in a daze. Maybe someone had stolen it. Anything made more sense than the truth tried to claw its way into her head. But every window in her apartment reflected just enough to catch a glimpse of movement when she passed. Just enough to show a flicker of a face that smiled half a second too late. And sometimes, late at night, when she brushed her teeth or checked her phone's dark screen, she'd see a thin, pale hand pressed flat against the inside of her reflection, smiling, waiting. FaceTime from the dead. Caleb hadn't deleted her number. It had been 6 months since Mara's accident, and he still couldn't bring himself to erase her name from his contacts, her messages from his phone, her voice from his world. Every night, he scrolled through their old texts, watching the dots of their conversations blink into silence. Sometimes he'd play one of her voice notes just to hear the rhythm of her laughter, the way she always drew out the last word when she teased him, or how she sighed when she was trying not to cry. Her last message was still pinned to the top of their chat. "Promise me, if something ever happens, you won't keep looking for me." He hadn't replied. That night she'd driven home from work, hit black ice, and never made it to her apartment. The car had gone off the road, into the river. He had replayed that last message 100 times. The more he heard it, the less it sounded like a joke. Halloween night arrived cold and wet. Rain had been falling since noon, turning the city into a blur of reflections, puddles catching orange light from street lamps, faces of costumed strangers warped in the glass of shop windows. Caleb didn't go out anymore. He sat in his apartment, the blinds half drawn, the glow of his phone the only light. He scrolled through Mara's Instagram, then their old photos. He stopped on one, her sitting cross-legged on the couch, hair a mess, wearing his hoodie, holding up a mug of coffee with a sleepy grin. He could almost hear her voice. "You're staring again." He smiled despite himself. "Yeah," he murmured to the empty room. "I am." Then his phone buzzed. A video call. The screen lit up with her name, Mara Skull. He froze. For a heartbeat. He thought it was some sick trick, a contact glitch, maybe, or a spam call from a spoof number. But the photo that appeared beside her name, the one he'd taken on their trip to the coast, her hair blowing across her face, that was real. His pulse thundered in his ears. His thumb hovered above the green icon, and then, almost without thinking, he answered. The screen flickered. For a moment, there was only darkness, deep, grainy, and moving faintly, as though the camera were picking up shadows shifting just beyond reach. Then the faint pulse of light, warm, steady, golden. He recognized it immediately. Mara's bedroom. That stupid seashell-shaped night light she'd always kept on. The one that flickered when her cat brushed against it. Caleb's breath hitched. He whispered, "Mara." No answer. The camera was facing the floor, showing the edge of her rug, the leg of her nightstand, a spilled water glass. The sound, faint static like wind through a speaker. Then the camera began to move. Slowly, unsteadily. It rose until it framed the bed. The sheets were the same pale yellow one she'd had, patterned with stars. The comforter was tangled, pulled toward one corner, as if someone had struggled beneath it. Caleb swallowed. "Mara," he said again, his voice smaller now. "Who's there?" The camera tilted slightly, showing the wall, the framed photo of the two of them at the carnival last summer. He hadn't seen that picture since her parents cleared her apartment. How could anyone be filming this? He checked the clock on his phone. 11:59 p.m. Halloween night. The camera drifted closer to the bed. The night light flickered, casting the shape of something, a body, faint under the covers. He couldn't breathe. His mouth went dry. Then a whisper bled through the speaker, stretched and hollow, like it had traveled from far away. "Stop looking for me." The voice wasn't quite hers, slower, deeper, distorted like an echo underwater. "Mara." His hand trembled so hard he almost dropped the phone. "Where are you? What is this?" The whisper came again, more urgent. "Stop." And the screen went black. Caleb sat frozen, staring at his reflection in the dead screen. His own wide eyes looked back at him, pale, ghost-like in the dark. Then, just for an instant, he wasn't alone in the reflection. Behind him, over his shoulder, something moved. A faint outline of face, female, blurred, smiling. He spun around. Nothing. The room was empty except for the soft hum of the fridge and the rain tapping the window. When he looked back at the phone, the screen had changed again. It wasn't black anymore. It showed a frozen image. Mara's bed, empty now. The timestamp read live. He fumbled with the phone, trying to close the app, but the screen wouldn't respond. The front camera flickered on instead. His own face filled the frame. Behind him, the reflection in the window moved just a fraction slower than he did. A whisper brushed his ear. "You promised." The phone slipped from his hand. The next morning, Caleb's neighbor knocked on his door. No answer. By evening, the landlord let himself in. The apartment smelled of rain and something metallic. Caleb's phone lay on the couch, the FaceTime app still open, frozen on a black screen. The police found no signs of struggle. The door was locked from the inside. But when they examined the phone, one of the officers swore he saw a brief flicker before it shut off, a face reflected in the dark, half-lit, smiling faintly behind the camera. Weeks later, a new tenant moved into the apartment. He found the phone wedged behind the couch, dead and cracked. When he plugged it in out of curiosity, the screen flashed once. Incoming FaceTime, Caleb Skull. He didn't answer, but for days afterward, he swore his reflection lagged behind whenever he passed a dark window. And sometimes, just before sleep, he could hear a voice, low and pleading, whispering through the static of his charger. "Stop looking for me." Ghost Dove's final stream. Every Halloween, Ghost Dove went live. Her real name was Danny Rivera, 27 years old, a horror streamer who made her name laughing at the things that scared everyone else. Haunted House VR, Ifipe Eps, Ouija boards. She didn't believe in any of it, but she knew her audience did, and she played the role perfectly. The skeptical witch, the goth skeptic who dared what others wouldn't. Every year on October 31st, she hosted the Seance stream, a tongue-in-cheek ritual where she'd summon the dead live for her followers. The chat loved it. Donations rolled in, jump scares spiked the numbers, and every year she ended the stream laughing, signing off with, "Remember, ghosts aren't real, but your clicks are." That Halloween, she went live 11:45 p.m. sharp. 11:45 p.m., the stream begins. The thumbnail was simple. Danny in her black hoodie, candles flickering behind her, a plastic skull sitting on her desk beside a half-empty Red Bull. Her hair was dyed silver that week, her eyeliner sharp as knives. "All right, my little ghouls," she grinned in the camera. "You ready for the Seance Stream 2025? I've got candles, I've got fake Latin, and I've got a chat full of skeptics pretending to be scared. The chat exploded. Queen Dove returns, candle, candle, candle. Summon me a boyfriend while you're at it. Call Bloody Mary. Call her. She laughed, sipping her drink. Okay, fine. Tonight we're going old school. No Ouija boards, no spirit boxes. Just me, my voice, and the veil between words. Let's see if it's in the mood to talk. She lit the first candle, then another. The light danced across her face, catching the edges of the tiny vanity mirror propped on her desk beside the camera. A cheap thrift store piece she'd bought for the aesthetic. All right, she said, mock serious. If there's anyone here who wants to talk, show yourself. Silence. Then the chat started to roll again. LOL dead air. Imagine if something actually answered. Turn the lights off for real. She smirked and did it. Clicked off the LED ring light. The screen dipped into candlelight only, the shadows deep and alive behind her. 12:03 a.m. Something shifts. She started the chant she'd written as a joke. It was nonsense Latin, half cobbled from movie quotes. Spiritus mortem, audi vocem meme. Her voice echoed softly through the room. The chat was spamming emojis, laughing. Then, slowly, the tone began to shift. Wait, what's that behind you? Bro, check the mirror. Someone just moved. Danny frowned, glancing at the screen. The tiny vanity mirror was visible in the corner of her camera frame, catching just a slice of the room behind her. She turned to look. Nothing there. Just candlelight. You guys are wild, she said, laughing it off. There's nobody here but me, 2 cats, and a whole lot of caffeine. No, seriously, one message read. Look again. She leaned closer to the screen. In the mirror, behind her, something had moved. The reflection flickered. For a split second, the angle of her head didn't match her real one. She blinked. It was fine again. Her heart thumped. She forced a grin. Oh good. I'm haunted by lag. The chat went ballistic. Donations rolled in, each with messages flashing. Don't joke about that. Your reflection's delayed. It's smiling when you're not. She looked again. This time, her reflection wasn't smiling at all. It was grinning, lips stretched too wide, showing teeth that weren't quite hers. Her real mouth was flat. Her reflection's mouth moved. Whispered. She couldn't hear it. Okay, she said, her voice shaking slightly now. Okay, chat, that's a good edit. Real funny. Who's running filters on me? But she streamed directly from her desktop. No one else had access. 12:12 a.m. The reflection moves. The reflection lifted its hand. Danny didn't move. For a split second, it hovered, fingers splayed. Then it waved to the camera. The chat erupted in chaos. It's moving. Oh my God. Danny, run. Danny stumbled backward, knocking over a candle. Wax splattered her sleeve. The flame guttered out. Her reflection didn't stumble. It leaned closer. The mirror seemed to breathe, fogging slightly from the inside. Then it whispered again, lips moving slow and deliberate. Come closer. She heard it that time. The mic picked up nothing, but her headset rang with the faintest echo of her own voice saying words she hadn't spoken. Her stomach dropped. She lunged for the power button on her computer. The cursor froze mid-click. The stream didn't end. 12:20 a.m. Live forever. Viewers said later they heard her breathing fast, whispering, in-stream, 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 over and over. Her camera kept rolling. The candles flickered out one by one. For almost 2 full minutes, she stood frozen, staring at the mirror. Her reflection stared back, expressionless now. Then, slowly, it tilted its head, the same motion slightly delayed, like a puppet on invisible strings. And then the reflection smiled. The mirror rippled. Her face leaned forward, lips pressing against the glass from the inside. There was a sound, a crack, then a low hiss, like air escaping from something sealed too long. The lights blinked. When they came back on, she was gone. The chair spun once, then stopped. The mirror sat on the desk, perfectly centered in frame. The next morning, her stream was still live. For hours, thousands of viewers tuned in, thinking it was an elaborate prank, the kind of stunt Ghost of would absolutely pull on Halloween. The chat joked, guessed at ARGs, scoured the stream for clues. But by noon, the jokes had stopped, because the mirror on the desk wasn't empty anymore. At first it showed faint motion, shadows behind the glass like smoke rising. Then, every so often, a face flickered into view. Not Danny's, not quite human. It would lift a hand, fingers pale and thin, and trace something across the inside of the mirror's surface. 3 letters. L-I-V-E. Aftermath. The channel never went offline. Twitch support claimed they couldn't terminate the broadcast. The stream key didn't match any registered user. Her PC had been recovered, unplugged, hard drive wiped clean. Still, every Halloween night at 11:45 p.m., the channel goes live again on its own. The same angle, the same flickering candles, the same mirror. And if you stay long enough, right around 12:03 a.m., you might see her reflection behind the glass, smiling faintly, mouthing the same words she whispered before she disappeared. Come closer.